Let's walk through 5 tips to get you started on sewing for others, such as charities in your local area or on a national scale. Welcome, I do sewing and DIY related content. In today's video, I'm going to be making 30 scrunchies to donate to a local animal rescue in my area, and I thought this would be a great time to go over 5 tips and tricks to get you started as well in case you like to sew for others. So my first tip is to figure out what causes matter to you. So specifically, what would you like to give back to? Is this an animal rescue? As you can see that I'm doing here, I'm going to be donating these to an animal rescue in my area. Is it something you want to do on a larger scale? Do you want to help with the homeless shelters in your area? Figure out what causes matter, and there's a lot of really great ways to do this. You can even just search on Google like sewing for charities, and a bunch of different items come up and different ideas come up to help you with figuring out how you want to give back and where you would want to give back at. And we'll kind of go into some more information about how to find the where, but figure out what matters to you, as that will help you with sewing all of these, especially since it can be time consuming. That kind of starts to get into my next tip, is figure out how much you want to commit. So specifically, figure out how much time you want to associate, as well as how much money you want to associate with this. So sewing a bunch of items can be time consuming, it can be costly, and it can just take a lot out of you to sew a lot, especially if you want to really commit a lot to a charity, which you do not have to do. Figure out first how much you want to donate, how much you want to use. Is it going to be all supplies you already have on hand? You can see here that this was actually a lot of scrap fabric that I had that I knew I wouldn't use again, so I thought turning them into scrunchies was a great idea for a fundraising effort for different rescues that they could use it at different times throughout the year. But figure out specifically, how much do you want to spend? Are you spending anything? Is it all supplies you have on hand? Do you need to budget for it? And how much time you're willing to put into this? Is this something that you have a lot of time to do, or is you just kind of like a couple hours one weekend and you just want to knock out some really quick projects? That will help you guide your decision for what to make, since you already know where you're going to be sort of sending them to. The next item that I would say, so my tip number 3, is determine now what you want to make. So you know what fabric you have, you know what supplies you have, figure out what you like to make that you can do to a charity. So specifically, I would say to kind of start off with one as a test to make sure that you can sew it and you like how it turns out, and you can figure out how long it takes you to go through one. This way, if you think that you're going to be sewing a bunch of blankets and then it turns out that it takes you like hours upon hours to make these blankets, you're not committing to making, like hundreds of blankets, when in reality, maybe you'll make 1 or 2 blankets. So these scrunchies, they're super quick for me to make, but I also feel that they are offering some sort of value, so scrunchies work out well for me in this case. My 4th tip is, now once you have figured out what you want to make, start to reach out to potential organizations to find out if they have any specific requirements for donations. If you are donating port pillows to a cancer organization, for example, be sure that you find out, do they need to be sanitized? Do they have any requirements for if you were to drop them off or deliver them? If you were just donating blankets to an area, check to see if there's any type of blankets they really are in need of, or if they're looking for more of. And then when you're reaching out to these organizations, be sure that you're doing your research, that they are a reputable organization, that there's someone that you do believe you can help. Are volunteer organizations already in place, that they have the connections? If you are making, for example, a bunch of blankets, they know who to send them to make sure they get into the right hands of the right people. But sometimes, it can be a little hard. You can fall into a trap that you think you found a good organization, and then it turns out that they're not using it exactly how you thought. So be sure you're doing your research. One of the ways that I like to do it is I like to contact organizations I've already worked with before. So for example, when I was trying to find an animal rescue to donate these scrunchies to, I actually contacted a local vet in the area that I take my cat to, as I know that they are going to have contacts with rescues. They're going to know who to send it to, and that way I just didn't have to worry about vetting them too much, as this is already someone that people trust. My last and final tip is just to have fun with it. As you can see here, I made all the scrunchies, I made all the dogs, and this was really fun for me, and that made it easier knowing that I'm helping others and being able to give back. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know if you have any tips and suggestions for giving back and sewing for others, and be sure to like, comment, and subscribe.